Hey everybody, we're gonna paint together this view from my city, Madrid. This is Madrid Cathedral. It's called La Almudena, and I just wanted to show you first, give you a short explanation of what we're going to do with this drawing. Okay, so basically you can check that there's in this image there are two vanishing points on each side. You could also say that there's one vanishing point on the top, and we could paint this using these vanishing points, but I don't really feel like doing that. I want to paint this in a different way. I don't want to complicate my life so much when it comes to the drawing, and I will treat this kind of like a portrait. Okay, so I'm just gonna use one vanishing point, the left one, and on the right, we're gonna just make just a flat, let's say, perspective, and I'm gonna explain it to you really quickly with a simple sketch. I basically don't want to complicate my life too much, and I also want to give it an impression slightly different than what a picture provides me. Okay, because you have to be reminded this is a picture that we took with our phone, and the perspective with the phone are always really exaggerated. So we could paint this, or we could make the drawing using two vanishing points like I'm doing here. So we will always, like have to create a layer, a structure, vanishing to each side of the drawing. But this is just one approach. It's not that it is too complicated to do, but it's just slightly more complicated than what I'm proposing now. So we're gonna ignore the right vanishing point, and we're just gonna use vanishing point on the left, let's say. And we could also even not do a vanishing point on the left. We could also treat it, like this kind of architectonical drawing that architects do when explaining their buildings. In Spanish it's called perspectiva cabellera, but the thing is that the left side is not really a vanishing point. It's more like we're just doing anything that is on that plane with a 45-degree inclination, let's say. And I want to do it like this because I wanted to keep the drawing simple. I'm gonna work the perspective more with the watercolor depth, with the watercolor, with light and shadow, with building atmosphere. So there are different ways to create atmospheres and to create depth, and I prefer using watercolor to create depth than using the drawing in this case. So just basically what's going to be important here when we do this watercolor is to keep the lightest parts of the painting really like preserving the white of the paper, let's say. So these are the areas that I'm showing you right now. You can really see that these parts are really they are more illuminated than the rest of the image. So we're going to try to preserve the white of the paper in these areas, right? And then for the rest of the image, we will work with different grades of shadow, of shading, and atmospheric shading. Okay, so this is the drawing that I did. I did it in the way that I told you, so I only used one vanishing point. Well, not really a vanishing point. I just made all the let's say all the lines on the left plane of the church. They are all like with an inclination of 45 degrees more or less, and then whatever it's aiming towards us, I just made that plane like parallel to the viewer. So all lines are vertical or horizontal, okay? And you see that the drawing also feels doesn't feel like it's a flat drawing, even if we kind of simplified the vanishing points, as I told you in the sketches. It doesn't feel like it's a flat drawing. It has a lot of depth, and it will have even more depth when we paint it, because we're gonna give depth using contrast, using atmosphere, basically using watercolor, right? So let's go for it. The first thing that I'm gonna do is I am gonna paint the light. Okay, so basically I am gonna use I am gonna build a sienna, kind of like a sienna, and we'll use that in order to just to go over the whole subject with what we feel it's the light color of this painting, and then once that it's dry, we will go with the shadows. um, I am building it with quinacridone gold, with some perylene brown and a little bit of yellow ochre, and then I'm putting some titanium white just to desaturate the mix a bit. This is basically kind of like a light sienna that I'm building. um, and yeah, I like building siennas in this way. A little bit of Jaune Brillant, so I'm just mixing a few yellows that I have here. Jaune Brillant is quite an opaque color, and I like using it like I used the titanium white before, just to desaturate the mix a bit while keeping the kind of like the sienna feeling alive. So the most important thing, even if we are like this is just a first wash and we are building, um, let's say, the light color of this charge, is to avoid going all over the place. So even if this is a light color and it's gonna dry kind of light, I want to avoid going over certain details so I can keep them. I want to preserve certain details with the white of the paper, right? So whenever I next to an area which is kind of like a highlight, I try avoid going all over the place so I can preserve some light just by using the white of the paper. Now we're gonna go over this area which is really illuminated. So again, I just lay the wash where there's no, let's say, where I don't need it to be so to preserve the light so much, right? It's important to keep this in mind, because if not, you're gonna lose a lot of light in your paintings. And I think that not in every case, but in many cases, especially when you're in a scene which is just on the sunlight, it's really important to preserve some white of the paper in order to to keep the light up. So this first wash is almost done. I'm just gonna add some noise now. I will mix kind of like a violet color using lavender, just to give some noise here and there. I also like, lifting some paint with the paper tissue, as I've already done, and then while this is still wet, I just mix a little bit of cobalt blue and lavender and some beryllium brown. So I build like kind of like a gray that tips a little bit purple, let's say, or lavender, and then we just touch the paper here and there in order to get some noise on this, let's say, not flat, but just one colored wash that we did. Okay, so now we're gonna start doing the second wash. This is gonna be the, let's say, we're gonna lay the main shading of this painting. Okay, we're gonna go all over the wash that we did before, adding this second layer of shading into the painting. Okay. So I mixed kind of like a gray again, using cobalt blue and some burnt sienna, but it's more into the blue domain right now, still, because, well, this part of the dome is feels kind of blue, and I want to keep a little bit of that here. Again, as we did with the light wash, I am careful to not to cover everything with the watercolors, so you have to be strategic and be mindful where you put your brush, so that you can keep certain details alive. So don't go with it all over the place. Be careful next to certain details, certain highlights that you want to keep. Okay, and we will do this in this way. I'm just starting to apply um, uh, this shading color in the paper, and with the brush. You see that I have another brush on the left hand, and I will use that brush to move the paint that I'm already laying with the other brush. Okay, so I lay paint with a brush, I move it with the other brush. And the other brush is normally I just wet it a little bit, but sometimes I also use it completely dry. And you see, I really like doing this because that way you can create soft transitions of color intensity, which otherwise will be difficult to do, right? Um, so I always work in this kind of situation with two brushes, one with paint and one which is either dry or slightly wet, in order to move the paint around. And again, we are working fast, but we're working with care. Let's say I am not just laying paint everywhere. I'm just carefully going around the important details that I need to preserve, so that with this layer of color, we kind of keep the basic structure of this building alive. And I keep using both brushes, the brush with paint and the brush which is slightly which is either wet or dry. I also really like um, when I'm working this second stage, applying this second layer of color, the let's say the shadow color of the building. I try to be more intense where I lay the paint next to a really lit area. So, or when I'm next to a change in a plane, let's say. So this is the part which is closer to us, and so it's in a different plane at the dome behind us. So I try to make the transition between both planes really clear, just by being slightly darker on the edge of this first plane which is closer to us, and also because it's close to this lit area on the left side of that volume. So I'm building contrast while I paint, right? And even if I am applying right now paint on a flat surface, let's say, but I don't apply it on a flat way. I just modulate the intensity of the paint as I go, and I don't worry about covering the whole thing. I'm just insinuating details and insinuating also this surface by not painting all over it. I'm just laying paint where I need it to make it like really visible to the eye. And I'm using the same techniques as before. I am laying paint and I'm moving it with the different brush. And in this part, it's closer to us, and there's many details that we could show here, but I'm not gonna be too literal about it. It is just important to me that this area is kept kind of like out of focus, because the main character for me in this painting is the dome. So this is just this first plane, let's say, is just giving me context. I don't really need to go too crazy with details in this area of the painting. And again, I lay some paint and then I move it with the other brush. As I go down here, there's a lot of bounced light coming from the facade, and it's and also from the roof, which is just beneath those structures. So I can't apply the shadow in a flat way. As I go down, I need to keep it lighter, so I can show some of that bounced light that I was talking about. Same here. We're doing this part of the building now, and it's I'm gonna make it darker as I am close to the left really lit area of that same volume. But as I go down, since there's a lot of bounced light from the other part of the building, I will try to keep it lighter. So I lay paint now on these parts here which have more contrast, and then I will move that paint downwards with the other brush, so I don't so I keep that kind of let's say graduated shadows that I was talking about, right? No shadow is flat. Shadows are always contaminated by bounced light and like reflections and things like that. And you see that we're mostly done with this second stage. um, Basically the second darker wash is mostly done. Then we will start adding details, but I just wanted to point out that this way of working that I'm showing you, using both brushes, moving like modulating where shadows are dark and where shadows are lighter. It allows you to create really like atmospheric feeling in the shadows, which is really important in my opinion in order to build kind of like an appealing image. If I just go with shadows in a flat way, that this image will lose a lot of freshness, let's say. So I always try to work in this atmospherical way when doing this kind of painting. Now I'm going to add some burnt sienna. um, in this architectonical details, there are many faces which are facing to the ground, and they get a lot of bounced light from below. So I like this kind of architectonical features. I like whenever there's a face of any object facing a little bit to the ground, and if I know that it's gonna get some bounced light, I just try to suggest it just by going with the brush over those areas a little bit. It's also something similar to the to making noise, like I told you before. So we're trying just to make a little bit of noise within the shadows. Now we're gonna start. Let's say this is like the third stage. We're gonna add details with a darker mix of color. So I'm using the same blue mixture that I had before. I'm just adding a little bit more burnt sienna in order to make it darker, and let's say less into the blue domain. So I always mix. If you've been watching my videos, I tell this every time, I think, that I like mixing my dark grays with either cobalt blue and burnt sienna or ultra blue and burnt sienna. They mix really well, and you can create really nice dark grays with these two colors or three colors. And now I am applying this dark mixture on these kind of windows that are in this part of the dome, and I don't apply it in a flat way. These windows, they have a structure, it's like they have this kind of metal frame which is holding all the different window panes or panels. I don't know how to say it. And so I try to apply the paint in a way that suggests that there's a structure holding those window panes, okay? And I don't use the same intensity all the time. And again, I just lay the paint with one brush. I mean, sometimes I leave some paint with the other. You can also use paper tissue in order to kind of break down a little bit the flatness of any surface that you're working. And here I am again using two brushes, and just by applying paint in this way, I'm kind of suggesting the structure which is holding this window, and it works. You don't really need to go too literal about it. Just by suggesting it a little bit, the human eye will immediately read it as my intent, as your intention, right? I'm going to darken this a little bit. It came out too light, so I'm gonna darken it out a little bit. and we keep going. We're just adding details whenever they're needed, and always working with the same philosophy. We have two brushes at hand, we lay some paint, we move it with the other. When we lay the paint on the paper, we're always mindful where to keep certain details unpainted. And we're painting shadows, we're not making lines, right? So if you, whatever you're painting, if you focus on the shadows that define the object instead of the lines that define the silhouette of the object, you're normally more successful in depicting the object accurately than if you build a silhouette and then paint inside of it. So try always to look at objects as shadow casting objects and as shadow defined objects instead of line defined objects. and we keep adding details. And this is, like, this painting is already working, because we did the two first things right. We laid the first light was right. We laid the second was let's say, the big shadows, was right. And now we're just adding details. We're having fun, so we could stop whenever we wanted to. I just want to keep going, because there's still many details that I want to show, but the most difficult work is done. So just be mindful of those first washes of light color and darker colors, and always being mindful about leaving some white of the paper alive if you need it. If there's a lighted object in the painting, just be mindful that you can preserve a lot of light by avoiding painting over certain details of whichever object, right? Now there's a railing here, just in front of the dome, and I'm gonna paint it now. You see that I left that area completely light. That's because I'm gonna add the railing now, and that will immediately, if I didn't leave what's behind the railing light, you will not see the railing as well as you're gonna see it now. So basically, the most important thing when doing a watercolor is kind of like to have a strategy. And if you follow that strategy, which is going from light to dark, and being mindful of preserving some white paper here and there and not painting all over everything, you will be successful. I am adding some some details in this illuminated part. And for that, instead of using the dark mix as before, I'm using burnt sienna or quinacridone orange, let's say, color in order to, you know, just to show that anything which is in the shadows in this area is getting a lot of bounced light, so will normally look warmer than if you make a shadow in the parts which are not in the directly on the sun. Si quieres, sí, sí. Se acaba ya, ¿no? Pues venga, ponla toda. I am now just, like I left unpainted certain details which are on the dome. They are completely white right now. I'm just gonna add a little bit of an orange shadow to them. You could use Naples yellow, or even a Jean Brillant, or any kind of orange, light orange here, to just to give those little details small shading. Also here there's a yellow sphere on top of this spike, and yeah, I just want to show it. Now I'm going to work on few statues that are in front of the dome, and we're basically mostly done here. Okay, so I'm just adding more details because I want to, but we could already more or less stop here if we wanted to. I'm gonna work on the statues now, um, and like I told you before, try to make, we're doing this kind of human figures here. I'm not gonna paint everything about them. I'm just gonna paint their shadows. No. ¿Eso sí un pedo? And this is it. We're already finishing, and yeah, that's it. I hope that you had a great time. I hope that you learned something with me that will make me really happy. And see you next time.